Well, good morning. Here it is. It's Thursday morning, which means we're now on the downhill slide, toward the weekend. Of course, today is April the 10th, and I hope you had a great Wednesday. I hope you had a great hump day of getting over the hump of this week, getting past the middle, and now we can kind of start looking toward the weekend. But anyway. And now God has given us the breath to breathe for yet another day and another day of opportunities. And I certainly hope and pray that this morning finds you feeling well. Hope it finds you well rested and ready to tackle the tremendous opportunities that God has given us on this Thursday morning. This morning I'd like to share a devotional with you and entitled The Plot to Kill Jesus. In Matthew chapter 26, verses 1 and 2, it says this: When Jesus had finished saying all these things, he said to his disciples, "As you know, Passover begins in 2 days, and the Son of Man will be handed over to be crucified." Now, at the same time, Jesus was, breaking the news of his imminent death, to his disciples. The leading priests and the elders plotting his death were trying to work, around a snag in their plans. Jesus was still popular with the Jewish people. Their meeting was taking place only 3 days after Jesus' triumphant arrival on Palm Sunday. Complicating things, even further was the fact that, Passover was one of the holiest celebrations on the Jewish calendar. Executing someone, many people believed to be the Messiah during Passover was going to start a riot. And a riot was the last thing that the Jewish religious leaders wanted. Their goal was to maintain, the status quo. The Romans were extremely, excuse me, the Romans were extremely tolerant of Jewish worship practices. You see, Roman leaders, they understood that respecting the religious traditions and customs, of conquered territories promoted stability, in the empire. And as long as things remained peaceful and orderly, and taxes were paid, of course, the Romans were content to let the Jewish priests and elders lead as they saw fit. Jesus, you see, threatened not only the status quo, with Rome, but also the leadership of the priests and the elders. Throughout his ministry, he challenged their authority and he exposed their hypocrisy. And as he neared the end of his earthly ministry, Jesus, he became bolder and, in his challenges. He was forcing their hand, so that they had no choice but to kill him. Their task was made easier by the help of someone in Jesus' inner circle in Matthew 26, verses 14 through 16. Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 disciples, went to the leading priests and asked, "How much will you pay me to betray Jesus to you?" And they gave him 30 pieces of silver. From that time on, Judas began looking for an opportunity to betray Jesus. The Bible doesn't say, why Judas betrayed Jesus, only that Satan entered into him. What we do know is that Judas later regretted his decision. When he heard that Jesus, had been condemned to death, and, he hanged himself. And the blood money he received was used to buy a potter's field. Now, Judas's betrayal, may seem like the ultimate surprise plot twist, the blind side that no one saw coming. But there's one problem with that interpretation. His betrayal was prophesied centuries before it happened. David wrote in Psalm 41:9, "Even my best friend, the one I trusted completely, the one who shared my food, has turned against me." And then the prophet Zechariah, he wrote the following in Zechariah chapter 11, verses 12 and 13. "And I said to them, if you like, give me my wages, whatever I am worth, but only if you want to. So they counted out for my wages 30 pieces of silver. And the Lord said to me, throw it to the potter, this magnificent sum at which they valued me. So I took the 30 coins and threw them to the potter in the temple of the Lord. You know, everything that led to Jesus' death on the cross was carefully orchestrated by God. God was in control. I mean, it was all part of his perfect plan of salvation. And it was driven by his amazing love for us. You know, because he loved us so much that he cared for us and he wanted to do this. And it only could happen with Jesus going to the cross. Here's the question I want to leave with you to reflect on today. Why is it sometimes hard to see God's plan at work? Hope you'll think about that today, reflect on it, and I hope you'll be encouraged by this time of the year and what we're celebrating. But anyway, remember Angie and I, we love you guys and we're praying for you. And Lord willing, I'll see you tomorrow morning. God bless you.